your kids' names?
Each one was a big deal.
Yeah?
Guess for you too. Well, because Jana was the first, and I kind of wanted to name her after my two grandmothers. One was Mary Jane and one was Mary Ann. But at the same time, I didn't want Mary. So I just thought about Jane and added Jana to it. That was it. So, Mary Jane Slade Curtis is one of my grandmothers.
Okay.
And so she's kind of named for her. But actually, it's interesting. I think she was Mary. That was the name she went by. And the other grandmother went by Annie. So, and there was a whole slew of things I could have done. But that's the way it came out.
Okay.
And I thought it was such an original name. But years later, I was watching an episode of Twilight Zone, and there was a girl on there named Jana. I thought it was funny. I think she was a robot. And Brooks was named for Dad's cousin Brooks Lee, who was killed in the war. Where we lived in Gilbert and Mesa, there weren't very many Brookses. But when Brooks came and lived here, they're all over the place. 5 or 6 that he knows. And Colin was named for Colin Kelly, who was the first World War II ace pilot. I think I can't remember why he was an ace, but that's who he's named for.
Okay.
I like that. And Nona, that was my nickname when I was little.
Right.
And then Elaine, my brother Cloyd had a girlfriend named Elaine when he went on his mission. While he was gone, she married somebody else. And so then Elaine was born while he was gone. And I thought, that is such a beautiful name. So we named her Elaine. And then Cloyd came back and married Elaine's sister, Vida May. Those two Elaines didn't meet for many years after in the temple. And Leela, of course, was named for Grandma Udall, Leela. Over my dead body, but yeah. Took us 3 weeks for him to wear me down. Name her Leela.
What did you want to name her?
I didn't have a name, but I thought Leela was too old-fashioned. But old-fashioned names are in now, so it's all right. And Marcy, we had heard the name and just liked it. So that's where we did it. And same with you. There was a guy when I was a teenager whose name was Jordan what? Can't remember. But anyway, just like the name.
Just like the name. It's a good reason to choose it.
And didn't we put James in the middle?
Yeah.
And so at that time I said to Colin, well, see, Colin doesn't have a middle name.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said to Colin, should boys have a middle name or not? He said they should. And I said, and so how old was he? 10? And I said, okay, do you want to add a middle name to your name? Because if you do, we would add James to it. He says, no, I'm okay. So then somebody gave you the name. Do you want to get the phone? Time out? There's supposed to be a red light on?
Yeah, I turned it off, so
Oh.
so you couldn't tell if I was taping or not. I didn't want to make you nervous.
Okay.
Okay, so what were your early surprises about being a parent?
Well, the surprises, I guess, were how cute the kids were, how much we loved them, and how much work it was.
Yeah.
Because at first we had no dryer and no disposable diapers. And so because the kids came one a year, they were mostly all in diapers at the same time. So it was really hard to keep up with the diapers even, let alone everything else. We had to rinse them out, wash them, hang them up to dry, bring them in and fold them, put them on again. But that doesn't compare anything with my mother's generation. What? So I was just saying that in Mother's Day, they had no automatic washing machine. So I think that they hung the wet diapers out to dry and used them again until wash day. Terrible. No plastic pants. So the baby was always wet. They had knit soakers, little knit panties that wool kind of absorbs the moisture instead of letting it run through. But still they were wet and soggy, I know. Terrible. And think of the poor pioneers. Oh my gosh. How did they survive with babies? Every phase of living, and you think about the pioneers and you think, how could they possibly have survived? But anyway, after a while we got a dryer. And we made fitted diapers, so we didn't have to fold them. They were like the disposable ones for the shape, and they had a lot of padding in them, and then you put plastic pants on over that. So that worked pretty good with a dryer. So surprises, I don't know about surprises. You just went along with whatever happened.
Yeah.
I don't remember having goals or surprises or the things you've been saying. How did you feel about that? We just went along.
Okay. What did you most like to do together as a family?
We went swimming. Went to the pool. What did we? Did we have any fun? I can't remember. We went to Disneyland a couple of times, and the zoo. Once when Colin was about 3 or 4 years old, we were at the zoo in San Diego, and he was on Dad's shoulders walking around, and was he the youngest one? I don't know whether Nona must not have been with us, even though she was probably born. And we walked by a tree, and somebody said, "Hello," and Colin looked around and there was nobody there, just a bird. And while he was looking, the bird said hello again, and he nearly fell off the shoulders. It was so funny. So it was fun to do little trips and things. And then, one at a time, I think we took the kids to conference with us. That was good. Mom and Dad came and stayed with all the rest of them. Oh my goodness. Must have been horrible for them. All those kids and all that racket.
I'm sure we were angels. How about day-to-day stuff that you like to do as a family?
Oh, I can't remember. When we irrigated, the kids ran in the irrigation in the yard. Had a tree house in the backyard at Penny Place. You never did live there.
No.
And Dad made a bicycle out of a tricycle. And Brooks and Colin tried to ride it. It was funny. And they had skates. And we had a little pool that could splash in the summer. And friends. All those things. Okay. What did we do in the summertime?
I guess the other side of that would be, what did you do most often, whether or not you liked it, as a family?
The diapers. No. Let's see. At the time when the older ones were little, we lived on Penny Place. And, we didn't do much because Dad worked all day. And I had little babies. I couldn't do anything except you know what? It's funny. I have a picture taken by a candid camera in Mesa when Elaine was a babe in arms, newborn. There I am, dressed up with my high heels, walking down the streets of Mesa with this newborn baby. How dumb is that?
Sounds pretty cool.
And for some reason, during that time, I found time to go to open houses where new houses were furnished and pretty. So that was one of my fun things to do.
Nice.
I don't remember our going to the movies. We didn't get the TV till 55 or something, after we had 3 little kids. Maybe not even then, because we didn't watch TV until, I think we had a TV before we moved down to the Wright house in 58 or 59. And they watched Wallace and Ladmo. But I can't think of anything else that we did. We just went along from day to day. Kids had friends.
Do you have a memory of your young children when you were just filled with a sense of love?
Oh yeah, when Jana was born, we used to stand there and watch her sleep when she was taking a nap. She was so cute. When she was 3 weeks old, my Grandpa Carpenter died. And we came over here for the funeral. And then, when Brooks was born, and we could tell when he was 3 months old that he was going to be left-handed, but we didn't realize anything else. When he was a year and a half, he had a seizure. He was sick and he had a seizure. And so I had 3 kids when he was a year and a half. And they were in the back seat of the car, and I was running around because I was the mutual president. Ridiculous. And he had a seizure in the back seat of the car. Our neighbor was a doctor, and his office was just right there around the corner, so I went there real quick. And he took Brooks into his room, and I knelt down and prayed really hard. And so after that, we went to the Children's Hospital in Phoenix and had a spinal tap to see, if there was something in that would show up in that would say why he had the seizure. But apparently it was just a high fever childhood sickness one. And Nona and Elaine both had them. So scary. So scary. When Elaine had hers, I was on my way to was it a stake mutual meeting? Stake primary meeting? Or something. And again, she was on the back seat of the car. And I was in Mesa. And I panicked, and I put my hand on the horn and kept it there and went to the hospital. But by then, the seizure was over. And so then I realized that what you do for a childhood seizure with fever is cool them down. Figure out how to cool them down. But Nona's came with a severe case of laryngitis, and she couldn't swallow. So she was in the hospital for a few days with it. And she must have been 3 or 4 at that time, and so and at that time, they had certain visiting hours. And so I'd go and visit from 3 to 4 and from 7 to 8 and then go home. And that was very upsetting to Nona, that I would come and then leave, come and leave, come and leave. And prior to that, she had been a happy child. And after that hospital stay where I abandoned her so many times, she became very clingy and, different. Took her a long time to get over it and be herself again. So I guess mothers just need to stay with their children in the hospital. Do something else with the ones at home, because that was bad. But then after, when we went to, when Brooks had his seizure, and we talked to the doctor, we talked to the birth doctor, and he said that the placenta had separated, and that's why he probably had the cerebral palsy. Colin says now, no. He says that happened before he was born. But I have my own opinion. And, these days, what can you do about it? These days, people sue the hospital. And we just let it go. And so then, when at that time, he was learning to walk. And he dragged his right foot.
And he's a right arm like this all the time.
Up in the air. And so the therapist at the Children's Hospital suggested a leg brace, which they made. It went on his shoe and wrapped up around his leg so that it would keep his foot turned in for him to walk. So we did that for several years. And the therapist thought that the exercises that she would give to him would make his hand useful. And it was things like squeezing a ball and other things. And she was so sweet, this lady, Elizabeth somebody. And she called him such sweet names. My sweet little moochkins. And just all kinds of things. And he would do anything for her. But at home, I'd get busy with the other kids and didn't call him the sweet little munchkin, and we let go of the therapy. I couldn't see that it was going to help. So, let that go. And he's done very well, and I didn't realize till after he was grown that what a terrible time he had in school, because he was the low man on the totem pole. Even though he was very smart, he was in honor society. Kids are kids, and they pick on the one that's different. So, to me, he's a great success overall. And sweet Suzette for overlooking all of that. I'm through with that.
What resources did you draw on to learn how to be a parent? How did you learn how to do that?
Well, you just, as I said, you got on along the best you could. And when I was tired and grumpy, I took it out on the kids, especially when they were older. But all the way through, Dad kept saying, you must treat the children with respect, the same respect you would give Sister Kimball if she were in your home. So that helped me keep trying. But the years between the years we lived on Penny Place were the hardest because the kids were little and so much work, and I was so tired by supper time because you only get about 5 hours of sleep between the babies and the ones that come and get in bed with you at night, that I was just absolutely worn out. And those were the years that I had the most depression. And those are the years that Dad felt that I wished I weren't married to him. And so we both had our issues at that time. And I had to get over that phase somehow.
And how did you? What worked?
The years went by, I guess. I always had to tell him it was his fault, like I said before. And then I was over it. He got the stomachache. I didn't know enough to make him help me. I thought that he should have seen what I needed when he got home. And he didn't. And I didn't tell him. So that was my error. Because he would have helped if I had told him how to help. Wouldn't you have?
Of course, whatever she said. Am I interrupting?
Jana was so cute and sweet. And she said the cutest things, and they're the ones we remember. After the rest of them came, didn't write them down. But she said cute things. She said, ham or dirty, huh? Geese on it. Well, Jana was such a happy little girl. It was so sweet. And she loved her little brothers and sisters as they came along. It was so sweet. She was just a sweet person. Stayed with it through all the thick and thins. Talked about Brooks a little bit. He was also a happy person. They were easy kids. And Colin, well, when Jana was born, it was 3 weeks early, and for some reason, Grandpa and Grandma Udall were staying overnight with us in our funny little house by the airport. Weird. And woke up knowing I needed to go to the hospital. And so that was about 7:30 in the morning, and away we went, and she came 3 or 4 hours later. Well, with Brooks, we were at a party. I guess it was a church party or something. And at 9:30 or 10 o'clock, the party was over, and I thought, oh my goodness, this has started again. This was 3 weeks early. So I wasn't expecting it at all. I thought Jana's was a fluke. So we went to the hospital, and it was midnight by then. And no doctor at the hospital. I guess they called the doctor, but I guess he thought he had plenty of time. and Brooks was born about 1 or 1:30 before the doctor got there. So that's what I think is the problem, that they tried to delay the birth, and the placenta had separated, so he was without oxygen for a little period of time. And he was a blue baby, although he weighed 8.5 pounds. Kept him in the hospital for a bit of time. And then when Colin was born, had one child that was 2 and one that was 1. And on Sunday morning at 7 o'clock, I woke up to find out that it was time to go to the hospital. I had to get a babysitter in Gilbert. I mean, on Sunday morning at 7, and you have 2 little babies that you've got to... So Aunt Lily got them. And we had to get gas. The hospital was at least 20 minutes away. So we packed my bag, took the kids to the sitter, stopped and got gas, and got to the hospital at 8:15 just in time for him to be born. And that was 3 weeks early. So when it was time for Nona, that was interesting. We went to Pendleton, Oregon, because Uncle David was going on his mission. We were having a family reunion up there in May or June. And Mela announced that she was having a baby in December. And I knew that I was pregnant and that this baby should be born in January. I didn't say anything. I let her do that part. So time went on, and the doctor said, you know, we're not going to wait till this baby comes. We're going to induce labor 3 weeks early. So that's what they did on December the 18th. So Nona was born in December when Melanie was supposed to be born. And Melanie was born in February, at least 6 weeks after her due date. That was so funny. But anyway, so I can't remember anything about Elaine's birth.
Because it was so easy.
All the rest of them were induced. You just went to the hospital and had the baby. Nona, Elaine, Leela, Marcy, all of you. All of you. The doctor decided your birth date. But that's the way that was. But even though it was a lot more children than we originally thought we would have or wanted, so glad. You're all so good.
Yeah, how did you decide how many to have and when to have them?
We never decided. We were married 4 years and had 2 or 3 miscarriages before Jana was born. And so we thought, well, hard for us to have babies. So we didn't do anything. So then we had Jana, Brooks, and Colin, 52, 53, 54, a year apart. And then we thought, well, this is kind of dumb. So then we tried to control the births. And so then Nona was born in a year and a half, and Elaine another year and a half. And then we went 4 years again. And
that was the gap.
That was the gap. And had Leela and Marcy Jordan. But we decided, we felt like after it was all over, we never were in charge. Never were in charge. Heavenly Father just sent you when it was the time. So we accepted that.
And after I was born,
Quick. There was one miscarriage between Elaine and Leela. But we probably needed that gap. So I never really mourned the miscarriages because I still felt that we weren't in charge of it, that there was a reason, and I didn't mourn it. So that was it. And so then, when we were down at the farm, and the older kids got to be junior high age, and they there were things they needed to go to, activities, and after school things to, and no friends that lived nearby. And so I could see us being just a taxi service forever. It was so hard to do that when you had little kids that you had to, of course we didn't have to put them in the seat belts then. Just grab them up and take them. But it took up so much time that we said, we don't want to live this far away from things. Big, beautiful home, 5 bedrooms, 3 baths. But one day, right before Christmas, first part of December, a real estate agent came and wanted to know if we wanted to sell our house, and we said, yeah, but we can't. It's the farmhouse. He says, that doesn't matter. We said, really? You can sell a house on the farm? He says, sure. Somebody wants to buy it. So we sold it and moved out the day after Christmas into a little cracker box. But we were in town. This is why it's so hard for me to see Mark and Nona and Darren and Marcy live so far out. And where you are, you're a lot farther than that from what goes on. Church and school and stores and everything. I don't know why that's different. You're in a neighborhood, for one thing.
Yeah.
You're in a neighborhood. But still, they do so much traveling. Their gas bill must be horrendous. They make, 3 or 4 trips a day, sometimes with 2 or 3 cars. But I've said that to them. It didn't do any good. They stayed there. But anyway, so we moved into the cracker box, and it was better. While we were on the farm, was it before we moved there that Dad became bishop? 1959, somewhere right there, he became the bishop. And then we moved in the middle of that. In 62, then, he went into the stake presidency. So, we were still, I think we were still on any place when he was made a high councilman. Immediately we got to Gilbert in January 1952. They called him to be the scoutmaster. So he was a scoutmaster, and then high council, then bishop, then counselor to the stake president, then the stake president, and then we moved back here. So all of our years from 1955 on was when he didn't sit with me in church. When Nona was little, I guess from the time she could reach to maybe now, she liked to rub the back of men's heads who had a haircut. So she would reach up from our bench in the church and rub the back of the men's heads that sat in front of us. So funny. So funny. Nona was always a peacemaker. That's why she and Elaine got along okay. And I guess Elaine learned from her. They probably shared a bedroom. But she was a peacemaker. But Leela and Marcy could not get along from the instant till they left home. And they used to fight at home. And I wouldn't let them fight in church. But later they told me that they sat there with big smiles on, just pinching each other to the raw in church. Funny kids. They're good friends now. That's what growing up does for you.
Yep.
And you were so much younger than your brothers that there wasn't much interaction. You had to make your own way. Let's see, what else do I want to say about the kids? When we had the ranch up to above Phoenix, we went to Gilbert because Dad didn't like the law business, and his dad helped us set up this farm in Gilbert. And after a while, it seemed like the farm was not making it. I remember one year we had $110,000 of income from the cotton farming, and it wasn't enough because we paid out $40,000 of that in interest for the loan to make the crop. And so we were paying 14% interest. And so I realized that everything I bought was 14% more than its price tag. And we could see us going farther and farther down. So when he had a chance to sell the farm for $4,500 an acre, which seemed wonderful, we did it and bought the cow ranch. And I think the first year was so horrible because for some reason I think he put Black Angus on it, and there was a drought and many died, and he was just sick because there we were again going down the tube. So he had some really hard, discouraging times with that. But eventually it came up, and he loved the ranching, so that was okay. Drove the bulldozer and made roads, and dirt tanks, and hired cowboys. And I don't know what I started to say about the ranch.
We were talking about the kids.
Oh, so one time when Elaine was about 4 years old, we went to the ranch, and Dad had bought some bloodhounds to catch lions, and they are the saddest looking animals in the world. Big, long, droopy ears, and their eyes cry. And there was one lying there, and Elaine saw it. And she went up and she was about 4, and she went up and put her arms around the dog and said, "Don't try, Dottie, I's here." So funny. But let's see what else. Leela, we lived on the farm when she was little, and her eye teeth came in before her front teeth, so we called her the tiger kitty. It's kind of cute. And she was a thumb sucker, maybe because she didn't have any teeth there the other way. And she and the kid that lived across the way, what was his name? I can see them walking along, one behind the other, both sucking their thumbs. It's cute. And Marcy was born with thick black hair about 2 inches long, and it stuck straight up. Even if you wet it and combed it down, pretty soon it went brong and stuck straight up again. It was so cute. They were all cute. Maybe the last was the best of all of them. But I don't remember too much about your babyhood. It all blends in with the rest of them.
I've seen pictures.
And I don't have very many of you.
You have a few.
You. I can't think of anything else.
Okay.
I guess I'm through.
What was the best parenting advice you got, and where did you get it?
from your dad. Treat him with respect. Any
other advice that you found helpful?
Well, one I made up for myself, but it was later on even. That is that if kids do something like you stumble over a rock, they didn't mean to stumble over the rock. I've seen people berate their kids for stumbling over a rock, or, as a matter of speaking. Number one, they didn't mean to do it. They're the ones that got hurt. They'll remember to watch for the rock the next time. You don't have to say a word except just hug them and comfort them. And I think that would be true in nearly every case. Nearly every case. Even if they're doing something naughty. You just love them and tell them you're sorry. What can I do? You don't give them a lecture. Doesn't do a bit of good. They don't want to hear a lecture. They want comfort. So just those two things. I'm sorry, I can't quit crying today. Turn it off while I blow. It haunts me. We had an old table out on the back porch over here. And Trevor was about 12, and he went out to saw something. And when he sawed the board, he also sawed the table. And I went out and got mad at him. What a stupid thing to do. I hope I never did that again. Marcy now has the table. She thinks it's wonderful because it's old. But it's her dining room table, even with the sawed-off edge. I hope Trevor has forgiven me. Bad. I'm through.
You talked about some of the vacations. Any other? The question is to describe in detail at least one vacation that stands out in your memory.
Well, there was that one early on to Disneyland, but later on, when the kids were teenagers, we went somewhere. We must have been going up north somewhere, and we came to a snowy hill, and they all got out and had fun on the snowy hill. I mean, it was just a moment's thing. I don't remember where we were going or why, but that was a fun time. And of course, the later on trips to the beach and everything were wonderful, but that was way down the line. It was not while our little kids were home.
Yeah.
Much.
And the 2 Lake Powell trips.
Oh, yeah. Did you go on one of those?
Both.
In 76, so you were only 10.
Almost 11.
Yeah, okay. Those, I guess, were the best, weren't they?
Yeah.
Forgot about them even.
Describe a family... I'm sorry, go ahead.
We had a boat.
Yes, we did.
We went to the lake quite often. Forgotten about that, too. I've forgotten half my life. Till it gets reminded. Yeah, we used to do that.
That was fun. Okay, describe family meal times with your family, with the kids when we were young. Who was there? What were our favorite foods? What did we talk about?
I can't remember when you were young. It's all a
Okay,
blur.
how about older then?
At one point, somebody started throwing spaghetti at the wall. I said, no, we're not going to do that. But we tried to eat meals together. I can't remember anything we had that was good. It probably was not enough. I was too frugal and too what's the word when you can't think of it by yourself? Anyway, to fix very good meals, I think. I did bake bread. And there was the one strange time when Colin was a teenager. I guess I was gone. He used to come home from school and make him a sandwich and put mustard on it. And so this day I came home and he was gone, and there was graham crackers with mustard on it sitting on the cabinet. We must have been out of bread, and graham crackers didn't taste good with mustard. Poor thing. Poor kids.
What were you talked about some of these, what were the major crises that you faced as a parent?
We always felt strapped for money, even when we were down at the farm in the big house. We felt. And so at some point we needed to have Dad tell his garbage story. But I don't know about crises.
Okay.
Down at the farm we had a cable car. You were probably too little. Had a cable car that went from one cottonwood tree to another one down the length of the canal ditch. And it was so much fun. So friends came there, and they always rode the cable car. And Nona always looked up and got rusty metal in her eye. It happened 2 or 3 times. We had to take her to the doctor and get the rusty metal out of her eye. She must have been about 10. And while we were down at the farm, we had I don't know who the baby was, but Jana was about 10 or 12. Could have been you, could have been Marcy or Lita. And we had a goose. And Lita was carrying the baby, and the goose bit her knee and hung on. She couldn't kick the goose off, she couldn't drop the baby. She just stood there and kicked and screamed. We tried to eat the goose, but it was so tough and stringy, nobody liked it. It was a funny moment. Then we had Greg Smith come and live with us. But before he came, we had Betty Angle, and then we had Doris, and Doris went to stay with someone else when Greg came, because they were about the same age.
I think I'm going to have you and Dad talk about everybody.
Okay.
How did your experiences as a teenager influence how you parented your own teenagers?
Because I was a good student and I wanted to be a good student, I just figured the kids did. So I didn't do too much about that. I was so mad one night, though. Somebody was in the 5th grade, and it was 10:30 at night, and they were still trying to finish a report. And I called the principal at 10:30 at night and said, "This is ridiculous. My kids need to be in bed, not working on a report that some teacher gave them that takes too long." I don't know what happened from it.
Way to stick up for your kids.
That's right. I remember that you didn't want to go to school. Do you remember that?
I do. I was hoping you'd forgotten.
My perception of it was that I tried to figure it out, because I thought, Monday morning, he's been home all weekend, Are his allergies acting up? You know, does he feel sick? I couldn't tell. But that went on for 2 or 3 weeks, I think, till I found out that you didn't want to take the spelling test that day. Because if you didn't pass it, then you had to take it again another day.
I think it was the multiplication tables.
Was it?
Yeah.
What'd you do about it? Learned them?
I started going again to school, and they already passed
Past
multiplication
multiplication.
tables. Actually, I think what happened was that one of my friends on Friday, I said, "I'll see you Monday." He said, "No, I won't. I'll see you Tuesday. You don't come on Monday."
Oh, really?
And I thought, oh, my friends figured this out. But
Well, Jana didn't want to go to school when she was, it must have been junior high or somewhere thereabouts. And she just cried and didn't want to go to school and didn't want to go. It finally came out that Idana Reber held her up against the brick wall and knocked her head against the wall. So anyway.
what do you enjoy in your relationship with your adult children?
Oh my goodness, they're so much smarter than we are. So I love the fact that they can survive on their own and give us advice. And that they all like each other. Wonderful. Lots of families don't like each other. And their children like each other. The cousins are a great support of each other. It's really good. Even when you're far away, they feel that closeness. And I guess it's because of email. But yeah, they're all good and faithful and smart and capable. And there's one thing.
And handsome.
Handsome. And many of them love to teach. I do not. Their dad loves to teach. And many of them love to teach classes and have been able to. Nona needs to have more opportunity. She said a few years ago, Mark was always invited to do the firesides and everything, and she says, and I have such good things to say. She really does. But they're also capable. Marcy is the choir director right now, for heaven's sakes, in her ward. And she was involved in the camp for many years, and one camp she wrote a song for it. Nona's written songs. Really good. And Colin, he does stuff like that. They're all good and have no complaints, have no suggestions. It's lovely. That ought to go with reflections, I guess.
You may not know the answer to this, but what would you like your children to know about you?
Probably we should erase this whole tape.
They know too much already.
They know too much already. They probably know me pretty well. I don't know what I would like them to know.
What message would you like to give each of your children?
Thank you very much. Thanks for the trip. Shut it off.